Hello, friends. Sleep Tight Stories, Sleep Tight Relax, and Sleep Tight Science are now available to play on Story Button, the device that makes it easy to listen to our shows and more without having to use a phone or tablet. This month, you can save $10 at storybutton.com when you use the code SLEEPTIGHT. Story Button, the home of imagination. Hello, I'm Sheryl, and this is Sleep Tight Relax, a weekly bedtime show for anyone who needs a good sleep. Tonight's story was inspired by a recent spring snowfall that, for a brief moment, turned everything sparkly and white. Our story is about a young beaver named Benny who goes out to play on an icy river. Benny has fun exploring but gets a little scared when he meets a girl named Millie after accidentally helping her find her lost skate. The story is filled with snowy adventures and shows how Benny learns about the exciting, sometimes tricky, winter world outside his cozy home. Before we start our story, let's take a few moments to get calm and relaxed. First, make sure you're snuggled up in your bed, cozy and warm. Feel the softness, just like the fresh snow in our story. You might have to use your imagination because it might be really warm where you are. Close your eyes gently and imagine standing at the edge of a quiet, snowy river. Picture snowflakes gently falling around you, covering the ground in a soft white blanket. Slowly breathe in through your nose and imagine you're smelling the crisp, cool air of the snowy river. Fill your lungs with this chilly, refreshing air, counting to 3 as you do so. Hold your breath for a moment and imagine you're a fluffy snow cloud floating above the snowy river, peaceful and light. Now, exhale through your mouth as if you're a gentle winter breeze blowing across the ice. Count to 3 again as you breathe out, feeling more relaxed with each number. Try to do this 3 times. Each time you breathe in, imagine the snowy scene more vividly. Each time you breathe out, feel yourself getting more relaxed and calm. Keep practicing your deep breathing as we start our story. Benny's Ice Adventure. Benny, Benny, where are you? There was no answer to this call, which Mrs. Willow, Benny's mother, made as she settled on the snowy riverbank. Mrs. Willow sat on her broad, flat tail, which was quite a comfy seat, and scanned the winding river for any sign of her little boy. Then she called again, in beaver language, of course. Benny, Benny, come home this minute. You've been playing on the ice long enough. She sighed. We've sure had a lot of snow and ice this winter. I'll be happy when spring comes and we can munch on fresh bark and build our dams, she mused. But no matter how loudly she called or how intently she looked up and down the river, blanketed with smooth ice, Mrs. Willow saw no trace of Benny. What's the matter? Asked an elderly beaver, Mr. Birch, who shuffled along just then. Has Benny wandered off? I wouldn't call it wandering off exactly, Mrs. Willow replied. I allowed him to go out and play, but he was supposed to come back for his willow bark snack, and he hasn't returned." "He doesn't seem to be responding," chuckled Mr. Birch, with a kind, gruff laugh. "I suspect Benny is out there playing some game on the ice with his friends. I'm heading downriver to visit some friends. If I spot him, I'll tell him to head straight home." "Please do," said Mrs. Willow. "Thank you." With that, Mr. Birch heaved himself up from where he had been resting on his tail and continued along the river, which fed into Crystal Lake. The river flowed freely in summer, but now it lay frozen solid with unseen currents swirling beneath the ice. However, Benny, Mr. Birch, and the other beavers could still see and swim in the water under the ice, much preferred to the slippery surface above. Although walking on ice was a clumsy affair for a beaver, and even walking on dry land was a little slower, swimming was another matter entirely. Beavers are master swimmers, and whenever there was any hint of danger, they would scamper to the water, dive in, and disappear beneath the surface. Mrs. Willow turned back towards the hole in the ice she used to access her home, a cozy pile of sticks and frozen mud shaped just right, sitting near the center of the frozen, winding river. From the outside, their home might look like a jumble of debris. The entrance was submerged well below the ice layer and only accessible by swimming underwater. In warmer months, the beavers could leave their home from any point along the water's edge. But winter's ice forced them to use specific exit points they maintained for just this purpose. After locating the entry point, Mrs. Willow dove into the chilly waters, swam a short distance to her stick-and-mud door, and then climbed up into the warmth of her home. Inside, the den was lined with soft grass, and bits of wood littered the floor, the bark of which provided nourishment during the cold months. "Did you find Benny?" Mr. Willow asked, stirring from a nap as she entered. "No, not yet," Mrs. Willow responded, "but I ran into Mr. Birch, and he promised to send Benny home if he sees him." "That's good of Mr. Birch," Mr. Willow murmured, stretching languidly. "I think I'll nibble on some bark now." "Me too," piped up Snappy, their other young beaver. Mrs. Willow handed some bark sticks to her son from a pile they kept inside their dark, mud-plastered home, perfectly insulated against the winter cold. While it was dark, beavers, like owls or cats, could see quite well. Mr. Birch continued his slow waddle down the icy river after watching Mrs. Willow dive away. He peered from side to side, hoping to catch a glimpse of Benny, but the little beaver was nowhere in sight. Benny, the young beaver, had earlier asked his mother if he could go out on the ice to play, and she had agreed, thinking a little time outside would be good for him. Benny, born just last spring, knew that winter offered little food outside their cozy lodge. But he had recently gnawed on some sweet, juicy willow and poplar sticks, so he wasn't hungry, just bored with being inside their home's dark, enclosed space, lodged in the frozen river. "I guess I can easily find my way back," thought Benny confidently. Walking on the slippery ice was tricky, and he much preferred swimming. "If I take it slow, I won't slip," he decided. So he ventured further away from home, rounding one of the many bends in Winding River, which was why Mrs. Willow couldn't see him. nor could he hear her calls. Suddenly, something caught Benny's eye. "Ah, that looks like a tasty snack," he said to himself as he noticed some scruffy bushes on the riverbank. The bushes were bare, of course, since it was March and winter still clung to the land. Yet, Benny hoped to find some bark on the branch's twigs, a favorite winter treat. Even though he wasn't hungry, like all young ones, Benny was always ready for a little nibble. Benny ambled over the ice, balanced himself on his hind legs, supported by his sturdy tail, and began to gnaw at the bark. However, after only a few bites, he yelped in surprise. "Ouch!" he exclaimed. "Something bit me." He looked around. There were no bees or wasps, which could have stung him. Peering more closely at the twig, he realized, "Oh, it's a blackberry bush, and the thorns pricked me. I won't chew on this anymore." He backed away and started to shuffle over the ice again, but he hadn't moved far from the blackberry thicket when he heard strange noises. The first was a tinkly sound, reminiscent of summer days when he heard the farmer's hoe strike a stone in the nearby field. Then came a thud, as if something heavy had fallen on the ice. Following that, he heard a little girl's voice say, "Oh dear, there goes my skate." Benny didn't understand human language, but he recognized the sounds as similar to those he had heard from people near the river during summer. Worried about humans who might try to catch him, Benny was on high alert. This little girl, named Millie, was unaware of Benny's presence. She had been skating when one of her skates had come loose and caused her to fall. The tinkly sound Benny heard was her skate sliding across the ice and hitting a stone near where he was hidden under the bush. Millie wasn't hurt, but puzzled about where her skate had gone. "Oh dear," she repeated, standing up cautiously. "I can't skate on just one. Where did it go?" Millie looked around the icy surface, but her skate had slid under the edge of the bush where Benny was hiding. "I hope she doesn't see me," Benny thought, wishing it were summer, when the bush's leaves would offer better coverage. Curiously, he watched as Millie shuffled awkwardly on one skate, searching. "She must be looking for me," Benny worried, his heart pounding. In summer, he had seen boys along the river trying to catch creatures like him. Staying low, he hoped she wouldn't notice him. Suddenly, his paws slipped on the ice, striking the lost skate, which caused it to slide out from under the bush directly toward Millie. "Oh, oh!" Millie cried, clapping her mittened hands as the skate appeared. "Here's my lost skate. It came from under the bush, but what pushed it out? There must be something there. I'm going to look." Benny heard all this and felt a little worried. However, as Millie stooped down and picked up the skate, he remained hidden, watching her approach with curiosity. Millie approached the bush where Benny was hiding, her curiosity piqued by the mysterious movement of her skate. Benny, tucked away under the bush, watched her nervously. He knew from his parents' warnings that staying hidden was important around humans. As Millie drew closer, Benny held his breath, hoping she wouldn't notice him. His heart raced as she bent down to inspect the area around the bush, searching for clues about the unexpected skate movement. Meanwhile, Benny pressed himself as flat as he could against the ice, wishing he could become invisible. "Oh, look at these blackberry thorns," Millie exclaimed, momentarily distracted by the prickly twigs. "No wonder someone hid here. Maybe it was a rabbit or a small bird." She pondered, unaware that just inches away, a little beaver was the cause of the skate's mysterious journey. Millie scanned the area a bit more but found no further signs of wildlife. Satisfied with recovering her skate, she decided to leave the mystery unsolved. "Well, whoever you are, thank you for sending back my skate," she chuckled, speaking to the unknown helper. With both skates secured, Millie prepared to leave, giving one last look around the quiet, snowy scene. As soon as Millie skated away, Benny felt a wave of relief wash over him. He waited until her figure disappeared, then cautiously emerged from his hiding spot. Looking around to ensure no other humans were in sight, Benny decided it was time to head back home. "Phew, that was close," he muttered to himself, his earlier adventures now making him eager to return to the safety of his warm, snug lodge. Carefully, he navigated back across the icy river, his little heart still fluttering from the encounter. When Benny finally slipped through the hole in the ice and paddled through the underwater entrance to his home, he was greeted by his parents' worried faces. "Benny, there you are," Mrs. Willow exclaimed, rushing to nuzzle him. "We were so worried. Where have you been?" Benny recounted his adventures and the strange noises, including his encounter with Millie and how he accidentally returned her lost skate. Mr. Willow listened intently, then gave Benny a gentle, stern look. "You must be more careful, Benny. The ice and humans can be very unpredictable." "I know, Dad. I didn't mean to go so far. I just wanted a little adventure," Benny replied, his voice a mix of excitement and sadness. "Well, you certainly had one," Mrs. Willow said with a relieved laugh. "But let's have no more adventures today. Come, have some more bark and then rest." As Benny settled down to eat with his family, he thought about the day's events. He realized that while adventures could be exciting, there was no place like home, especially when it was filled with love and warmth. Snuggled up with his family in their cozy lodge, Benny felt safe and content, his adventurous spirit satisfied for now. Outside, the river remained a silent, frosty witness to the little beaver's winter escapade, ready to hold on to his secret of a brave, curious beaver and a little girl with a lost skate. And so, the winter day drew to a close, with the soft whisper of snow continuing to blanket the quiet world outside, tucking in Benny and his family for a peaceful night in their riverside home. If you are still awake, I would like you to whisper to yourself or just say in your mind, "I am curious and love to explore, just like a young beaver on the ice." I am smart and can solve problems that come my way. I am kind and helpful, always ready to lend a hand or a paw. I am safe, loved, and always cared for, like Benny in his cozy home. I am calm, relaxed, and peaceful. Good night. Sleep tight.